Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this Sunday. So I talk a lot about finesse fishing, and I think that's a pretty broad term when it comes to what you're actually doing. I think when most people talk about finesse fishing, drop shot, shaky head, Ned rig, that's probably what comes to mind. And I don't really do a whole lot of that. We're in March, almost the end of March, and I haven't had a spinning rod in my boat all year. Now, I'm going to a lake next that has smallmouth and spotted bass, and they will definitely play in this tournament. So I'm going to bring those type baits because those baits are really effective on smallmouth and spotted bass. Now, they'll catch largemouth too, but I don't necessarily think you can just go around the lake and throw those and catch big largemouth. You have to be throwing them in areas where big ones live, and it's really hard to find big largemouth with the shaky head. Now, if you know a lake really well or you're catching some fish on other baits and the quality is there, there's no reason not to pick up a shaky head and make a few casts because you can catch the biggest fish all day doing that. That's just how finesse fishing works. But I incorporate finesse fishing into what I do on the lake different than I think most would. So I am going to be throwing this ball head as much as I do any other bait. So I have a full-size jig. I have a couple different jigs, but this ball head is something that I'm going to fish in all the same places that I really am fishing any other bait. Now, I do catch a lot of little fish on this bait, but this is such an important part of shallow water fishing in the pre-spawn that I don't necessarily think everyone does. I know I didn't do this for the beginning of when I was tournament fishing for about 10 years into it, but now anywhere I go, this bait is going to play. And if you have any type of rock or wood, this is going to be one of my first options when I'm searching for bass, because I feel like a jig is one of those baits that catches big ones and catches numbers if it's small enough. So took me years, took me a lot of different fishing trips with other people to realize that this is a powerful, powerful tool if you're a shallow water angler. And if you don't fish this, then you're really missing out. So I want to talk basically about why I'm throwing this and where I'm throwing this, because I think that's probably the most important thing. So, I'm not going to go run new water in a tournament or something with this bait. Most of the time when I'm looking for fish, it's fast moving techniques like a crankbait or a chatterbait or a spinnerbait. And I'm not going to use this. This is a slow, monotonous, hard to find fish technique. This is when you're around fish. And what typically is going to happen is you're either going to be sharing a lot of water with other anglers, or you're going to just not have a whole lot of places to fish. Now, in those places where there are fish, they're going to be really hard to catch if you are splitting up those small areas with a lot of people. So I'm going to Wheeler Lake this week, and there's 2 creeks down by the dam that have a ton of fishing pressure, but that's where most of those fish spawn that live down by that dam. Then you also have a river that comes in that's also down in the lower end of the lake, and a lot of people are going to be fishing in there. And then you have one other creek on the other side of the lake, and there's going to be a lot of people fishing there. And if you want to fish on the lower end of the lake, that's pretty much your options if you want to fish shallow. Now, I know I'm going to be around a bunch of people, so it's going to be a big surprise to me if I get to catch fish on a full-size jig this early in the year. Now, if you have April, warm water for a couple of weeks or a month, and every fish on the lake is either spawning or post-spawn, then you can go with the full-size techniques. And if you don't have every fish in the lake up shallow and you're dividing them with a bunch of other anglers, this is your only option. This is something that I think most of the guys from Oklahoma do really well. Pretty much every shallow water fisherman I've ever met that's really, really good, they know how to lock this in their hand and make it work. And it's not easy if you haven't practiced it. So I rig it up on a 7'6" medium heavy action rod, extra fast tip. So that's a flipping stick, just a really light action one. I put 15 or 17 pound line on it, and I'm going to use it the same way that I'm going to use any full-size flipping bait. And when you have a little stretch of water, you can go and crank it, and you can go, you know, in the back of the pocket and throw a chatterbait or a lipless crankbait and do all that. But when you recycle through those areas, you're not always going to be able to use those same baits and catch fish. You know, the next time you go through it, you may have different conditions. You may have to really slow down, pick every piece of cover apart, and you can't do that with those other baits. That's where that little jig comes in. So such a handy part in fishing shallow. If I was to advise anyone to learn a new technique this year and they were already a very good shallow water fisherman, that would be it. Ball head jig, you can cast it, you can flip it, and you can catch fish on it anywhere in the lake. Try that this March, the last little bit of it we have left, and into the beginning of April if you still have some fish in that pre-spawn. Good luck to you guys, and I'll see you on the water.